So resume recording, screen share. Perfect. So the first thing y'all will want to do is go to track it. Once again, we are using this for delivering all our content, and it has step-by-step instructions for everything. So Eric can drop the link to track it in the Zoom chat, and then, yeah. The actual code for today's is Hdf Development. And let's go ahead and get started.
You said the password is Hdf Development?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Cool, cool. I see many of y'all joining in. Keep it coming. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're just going to give a general introduction to what is an API as well as what this workshop is about while other people start tuning in. So here's our brief introduction. It's pretty much the same, I think, for most of the other workshops today. We're ACM, Association for Computing Machinery. This workshop is being run by ACM Development. So we're the team that's building all the cool microservices that are like powering a lot of the things you see at Hacktoberfest, as well as even things outside of this event as well. So my name's Harsha Shakara. I'm the director for ACM Development. And Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Eric. I'm pretty new to ACM, but I've been working on the Discord bot mainly for ACM Development. So anything that you saw related to the Discord bot today was stuff that I have been working on for the past 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing to do that would really help us keep track of like where people are coming along is as you're on track it, just follow me and just mark completed so that in real time we're able to see like, oh, okay, you know, this is where people are keeping up with us, right? And then once you do that, like once sufficient people have done that, we'll be able to actually go to the next slide. So we have a simple Git cheat sheet over here. Much like all the other workshops, like the main ones we're going to use today is really just git clone and the name of the repository, adding and committing, pushing your code back up to GitHub. We're going to come back over here in a little bit when it's time to talk about code on how to fork the repo. But before that, we have just 2 or 3 slides of general introduction about what APIs really are and what you can do with them. If y'all go ahead and mark this is completed, let's go to the next one.
All right, so let's first go over what exactly an API is. So it stands for Application Programming Interface, and it's pretty much an interface that's designed for computers to essentially talk to each other over the internet. And it's not exactly like a language, it's more like a set of code words that different computers can use, and then they can convey messages to each other using those code words. So one main use case for APIs is on the web. So web APIs will help programmers design applications that talk to each other over the internet, and they'll allow other programmers to access the data or the functions or any kind of functionality that they're adding to their own projects. So in the case of web APIs, we have applications send requests to a certain URL that's defined within the API called endpoints. So you can think of this as like, let's say you have a machine and then you have an interface on the machine. An endpoint would be like a button that you press or a form that you fill out. And then these requests can also carry data payloads in order to make more specific requests or deliver data to that endpoint. And we have lots of reasons that we should use APIs. The big reason is to make things modular. So even if you're not trying to share your data with other people outside of your company or outside of your project, it's still nice to use APIs because it will make your code modular. So you could have a back end and then a front end that calls your API. One reason that we use APIs rather than normal human websites is that there's a lot of reduced overhead. So rather than having to load in all of the JavaScript and all of the CSS, all of the images that come with a normal human website, an API is pretty much like a computer's website where it only sends the raw text and the minimal amount of information to get the data across. And the last reason is abstraction. So we can abstract all of the details that are happening behind the scenes, and all the user of the API sees is just, send a request, get data back. All right, so then 3 examples that we are using are Google Calendar API, Discord API, and Open Weather Map. So the Discord API was really useful because that's pretty much how the entire ACM Discord bot works.
Yep. So if you're wondering like how we give points, how we pick raffle winners, how we do lotteries, all of those things happen through the Discord API. That's kind of why like when you guys registered, like we asked for your Discord username. So we store that, and that's how we query the API saying, hey, give this specific user with this name like X number of points for attending an event and so on. Cool. So let's go ahead to our next slide.
All right, so let's also talk a little bit about what HTTP is. So if an API was the code words that we used, HTTP is like pretty much the language that they speak. So it stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it's a common protocol that's used to pretty much structure the data that's being sent over the internet. And the requests have a lot of parts. So one part that everyone might be familiar with is the URL. And other sections of the request are the method, the request headers, and the body. So we have lots of HTTP methods. You can see some on the trackit screen. These are get, post, patch, and delete. And you can read a little bit about the general convention. One thing to note is that these aren't hard rules, right? So you can send an HTTP method with post to retrieve data, but these are just the conventions that people use and people have been using. So underneath, you can kind of see a little breakdown, like a GET request with that weather endpoint, or a POST request where we're sending our data. And if you look underneath, you can see all the headers and an optional body. So we can see like, let's say we're posting to sendyourdata.com with this body. Our name is TMOC, our university is UT Dallas, our degree is computer science, and we give them our credit card number because that's internet security.
Yep. Now, one thing to keep in mind with these HTTP methods is that this is not an exhaustive list, and just because something is a get or a post doesn't necessarily require that those methods do what they're supposed to do. Like, think about this like in any of your classes. Just because you call a method or a function name like get username, that doesn't mean it has to necessarily return the username. It could return something else. It could do something on the side. It's whatever you code you write inside of it, right? It's very similar when it comes to the HTTP protocol as well. Like it's really free for all, but these are the conventions that people typically follow with these 4 specific HTTP methods. Cool. Let's go ahead to our next slide over here. And I'm super happy to see that everyone's been able to keep up with us really well.
Yep. All right, so one more information slide. What is the cloud? So the cloud, put simply, is just a group of servers that are accessible over the internet. But why do we need the cloud? So this is something that companies and individuals can use. But so companies, the use case is that they have traditionally had to maintain a huge data center with all of their servers, and they have to have teams to maintain these data centers. And this can get very complicated. So as I mentioned, we have huge maintenance teams that they have to hire and keep on site all the time. They might have to deal with power outages. And because there may be power outages, they have to run disaster recovery tests, and they might have to manage their internet speed. Maybe they need to upgrade their internet connection, and that just requires even more time and money. And maybe they need a ton more servers because their company is growing. really quickly, right? So it's kind of hard to install twice the number of servers that you currently have. So this is where the cloud comes in. So cloud providers will specialize in hosting really large data centers, and businesses can then rent these data centers out and use them for their own purposes. And they can pretty much focus on building their product rather than wasting all of this energy on maintenance and upgrading.
Yep. And I think many of y'all may have attended the Google Cloud talk that happened just before ours. So Cyan over there went into a lot more depth, and like we're going to be using Google Cloud a little bit for this workshop as well, for the actual deployment end of it. So it's going to be pretty cool towards the end. Awesome. Let's go ahead and mark completed. And finally, we now get to the code. I think we get to the code, hopefully. Yes, we get to the code. Okay, so the only thing that this workshop really requires in order for you to be able to run your code locally, for a lot of this, you don't actually need to have anything installed. If you just want to like write your code, give it to us, and we'll deploy it and you can test it. But if you do want to test it locally, then you do need to have Node.js installed, and preferably some code editor. VS Code is what I'm going to be using for this workshop, but anything works. So before you go ahead and actually cd into the directory, what we'll want to go ahead and do is actually fork the repo. So if you guys go all the way back to slide number 2, there is information on how to fork a repo, but you guys can follow along with me as well. So over here is the link to the Hdf Development repo that I just dropped in the Zoom chat. What you guys want to do is top right, along with me, just go ahead, click on the fork button, and then just click on your GitHub username. So what forking really does is it just copies over the code. That's literally what the process of forking is. Creates this duplicate, so all the code, everything, the branches, all of that get just copied over. Once you've done that, what you can go ahead and do is copy over the link to clone it, and then head over to the command line, and then a simple command to clone it is git clone and then paste that link. Once you've done that, you should be able to actually go ahead, go back into Trackit, and head back all the way over to slide number 6. So let's see. Once you've done that, essentially what you'll want to do is you'll want to cd into Hdf Development, right? We're actually going to go into the repository where we're going to write the code. One additional step is we're going to cd into the functions directory. So I don't know if y'all haven't heard of what cd does before. In Linux lingo, cd just means like double click on a folder and open it, but on the command line. So essentially we open the functions folder. The functions folder is actually where all of the code is written. So that's kind of why we need to be inside that specific folder. For all of the things that we do during this workshop, please make sure that you're in the functions folder. You're not just in the root folder. If you're in the root folder and you run a lot of these commands, it's going to say things like, hey, I can't find a package file, or I can't find npm, or I can't find a bunch of different things. So make sure you guys cd into functions. And we have like in comments, like all the steps. You do not need to create a folder on your computer first. You can go ahead and directly just clone it. That works completely fine. Yeah. Cool. So pretty much we're going to open up VS Code. And the thing is, we actually don't need VS Code just yet. All of this is for running and building the code, but I want you guys to like try one thing along with me, and it's gonna be really great. So if you go into the README file, there is a line of code in here. Just copy this line of code. It's the only line of code in the entire README file, and I can paste that here as well in the Zoom chat. Just copy that and just hit enter. This is what you guys should see. This is the heart of the ACM API that we're going to be exploring today. So we're going to teach you, like, this one over here just returns like how many points I have in Hacktoberfest, but what we're going to teach you is how to write your own function so that it returns how many points you guys have in Hacktoberfest. So if this works over here, that means you are good to go. Curl is by default installed on every single device, and all you got to do is type that link in. So I hope that worked for everyone. Can I go back one line? Clarify what you mean by go back one line. Right, so we don't actually have to do anything on VS Code just yet. The only thing I did was I just copied this example line of code over here. That's all I did. I haven't changed a single line of code yet. We haven't written or opened any files, none of that yet. Correct. Thank you, Eric. So now the thing is, this function that we just ran over here, curl HTTPS US Central 1, this function or this API is running on ACM Development's like private server on Google Cloud Platform. But not everyone has their own server running on Google Cloud Platform all the time waiting for requests, right? Sometimes we want to just be able to test things locally. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do right now. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to clear this out. And we're going to go through the steps on Track It over here to be able to run the code locally. Okay, so once you run this locally, you'll be able to Ved Sharma could not resolve host. That's interesting. Make sure you copy the word curl as well. So those are the only two things you need, curl and then the URL. Cool. So let's go ahead and copy these things. So first thing we'll want to do is run npm install. Whoops. My bad on this. Let me just log back in 1 second. Cool. So yeah, we'll want to run npm install. Make sure you guys are in the functions folder. Npm install, all it does is it goes and installs all of our dependencies. So for example, this project requires a library to be able to send HTTP requests. It requires a library to be able to parse information. So npm install gets all of those requests. The next thing to do is to do npm run build. Npm Run Build will ensure that this project gets compiled, essentially. It's pretty straightforward. And finally, we'll want to do npm run dev, which will actually run the code. You will see an error message pop up right away when you do that. Ignore it. It's just a warning. All it's doing is trying to check like where it's supposed to deploy on Firebase for a certain few variables, which it can't find because we're running this on our Mac. We're not running this on Google Cloud Platform, but it'll work just fine. What you guys want to do now is just open up another terminal window. So if you guys are on Mac, you can just do Command T. If you guys are on Windows, I think it's Control T to open another tab, basically. And now we can actually test this. So instead of sending it all the way to Firebase, we can just do curl localhost. The port is 8079, I believe. You can do just /hello. If you're able to get this working, go ahead and mark as completed. And then we'll go ahead to our next step.
Oh, what's the port again?
8079. Yeah, let me go to the next level.
Yes.
I think the port. Yeah, there you go. So hello world. Once your code is running on level 6, so on slide 6, you should get to this point where your one terminal window, it just says it has this error message and then it looks like it's frozen, but that just means the code is running. On another terminal window, you can then go to slide 7 and just run curl localhost 8079/hello. Yeah, npm install, it just has to install a crazy number of modules. So yeah. If you go to level 6, Armand, you will see all the commands in order that you need to be able to run. So install, build, and then actually run the code. URL prefix is not recognized. Just try prepending HTTP. To open another tab, you do Command T, Command plus T, or Control T if you're on Windows. Yeah, when you do run npm install, you may potentially get a bunch of errors, but it should finish at the end. Awesome. It's good to know that it worked. Good to know. Hello world works. Very fancy. Thank you. You will get several warnings, yes. As you kind of can see on my window as well, I do have warnings over here. These warnings are just present because we are not running this code on Google Cloud Platform. Eventually, we will run it on Google Cloud Platform, which is why I was able to demonstrate the first example without the code even running on any of y'all's devices. We directly queried a function that's running on the cloud. So that's the end result for this workshop. So after this is done, you guys will have your own custom endpoints that any of you can query, and it'll return the number of points you have in Hacktoberfest. That's the end goal for this workshop. All right, it looks like most of us have been able to complete it. On Windows, you need to do Control T, I believe, or if Control T doesn't work, you can just open another command window, just search up command, and you can open up another tab. Cool. Awesome. And thank you guys so much for helping each other out there. That really helps. And yeah, you're correct over there. You can also run this from VS Code. So VS Code has a built-in like terminal thing at the bottom. If you don't see it, you can do Command-Shift-P and you can type in terminal. That'll make it appear. Cool. So now that we got this working, let's go ahead to our next thing. And our next thing is going to be actually writing code. We are going to write our own function. So previously, we had it say hello world. What we're going to do is we're going to write our own function that says hello followed by your name, right? So let's go ahead and fill that out. So creating our own endpoint. First thing you guys want to do is within the source folder, within the API folder, there's a file called template.ts. If you guys could just make a duplicate copy of this file and rename it like with your name, essentially. In this case, I've named mine as Tmock, but you guys can go ahead and individually name it like your first name or something unique, essentially. It'll allow us to like create individual files for every single person. Now in here, there's templates for two different functions, essentially. So that's what we're going to cover today. The first function is essentially a very, very simple hello world function. The second one is the one that actually gets the data for like how many points you have on Discord. So what we're going to do over here is you should see an outline pretty much similar to mine. Like it's just a blank function. There is no code inside of this function over here, right? That's what you guys should see right now. We're going to populate with that with some code so that when you eventually type in this command into your command line, like curl localhost 8079 followed by this specific endpoint. Ritesh, that's correct. You don't have tmock.ts. You need to take the template file and duplicate it and rename it to be your name instead. So this is a file that I created just now, which I can. And I hope y'all can see this. I can make the code a little bit larger if that helps. Cool. So essentially we have a blank function, and what we're going to do is we're going to adapt this function so that it returns your name. Now to do that, let's go look at the function that returned like hello world. If you open the index.ts file, that's where you'll find that function. It's over here, like example function that returns hello world. You'll notice it looks extremely simple. I'm just going to do a little bit of a deep dive into what exactly it's doing. It's really straightforward. All it says is that if someone does /hello in the URL, then we should send back a message called hello world. That's essentially all it's saying. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to adapt this same code over here, and we're going to change it up so that it basically returns your name. Okay. So the code for doing that, actually, it's on the very next slide for track it. So let's go ahead and mark this as completed. And we'll go to the next one, which contains the code for doing that. Cool. So in here is actually the code snippet of what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to go ahead and type it out, but if you guys want to copy paste it from here, that works just fine as well. But I'm like going to explain how it's working. So essentially what we want to do is we want to create a variable called name, and we want that name to essentially be whatever is in the URL. If you guys look back over here, you'll notice that this is the actual endpoint we're going to query, where 8079, hello, your first name, last name, and then your name at the end of it. And whatever this name is what it's going to return over here as hello, your name, right? So we want to get whatever is in this URL. So the way we do that essentially is by typing in request.params.name. It essentially gets this part over here, which is a query parameter. So, and then the rest of it is very straightforward. All we do is we have the exact same way to send a response back. So remember, with an HTTP request, you are sending some information in and you're trying to get some information back. So what we're going to do is instead of saying hello world, we're going to replace this with hello name. And that's it. We're done. In just a very few short lines of code, where most of it was pretty much identical to just saying hello world, we're now able to say hello with your own specific name. Also, the other thing you guys will want to do is rename this function. When you open your pull request, it's going to cause errors if everybody's functions are named the exact same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename mine to hello_tmock. If you guys can rename it to be hello_ your first name, like that would work absolutely fine. Okay. If everyone is good up to this part, then go ahead and mark this as completed, and we'll go ahead to the next step. And of course, if you have any questions, please ask. We have a couple of people who are still writing the code, so I'm gonna give y'all about 30 seconds to copy paste it over. Like the exact code you need to write is in Trackit, so you can copy paste this over exactly as it is. But kind of if you went through the explanation that I just gave, you'll see why we did that. Anyone have any questions about that? Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. Okay.
So you don't need a semicolon? That's why a lot of errors were coming from me.
A semicolon where?
Like after hello name.
You don't. Over
Okay.
here, you do not need a semicolon, no.
I see. Thank you.
Trevor, if you see that there's an error in tsconfig, it may be because you have a separate ESLint configuration on your device. It may help to just delete the repo and reclone it so that that configuration disappears. When you first open the repo, it may also ask you a question saying, do you wish to like accept these ESLint preferences? Just click no, and that also will solve the issue. Cool. Thank you, Aditya, for the link. And then the actual code is Hdf Development. Awesome. Let's go ahead to our next part. I think we got most people caught up with us. Perfect. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go to our next slide. And here we need to connect the code basically to our endpoint. So essentially, we just wrote a function over here that returns hello and then followed by your name. But your device doesn't know when it's supposed to run that code. Like previously over here, kind of in our index file, we said if your endpoint is /hello, then do this, right? But for our other function that we just wrote over here, like there's no exact definition saying like when am I supposed to run this code? So that's what we mean by linking the code to the actual endpoint. So the first thing we'll want to do is if you go to your index.ts file, there's a snippet over here that says like change things below this line and change things above this line. Make sure you guys only edit in that window. But what we're going to do is we're going to like add our import statement in addition to the one that's already there. So we can do something like this, where all I'm doing is I'm adding import hello tmock. Why am I doing hello tmock? That's the name of my function, right? And I'm doing it from my file called tmock. So those are the few things you'll need to change. Put in the name of your function and put in the name of your file. And then put a semicolon at the end. And once you've done that, we can actually go ahead and link it. So we can say, when we make a GET request to /hello-tmock-utd, then we want to run this function called hello tmock. And we're done. And this is essentially what we mean by linking the code to an endpoint. All we did here is we said if someone queries this specific endpoint, then we want to run this function. That's all we did over here. We just connected the two of them together. Correct, Sai. You don't need to specify TS. Awesome. Cool. So now we can go ahead and run this code again. So back over here, you will need to go through the process again. So you'll need to like end the process that was here. You'll need to run once again, run npm run build, because you need to recompile the code. There's been changes to it. After you have built the code, which takes a few seconds for me, could take a couple more seconds for some of y'all, depending on device, you can do npm run dev, and that will run the code again. Once you have that done, we can actually try it out. So we can go to hello-tmock-utd, whoops, /tmock. Hold on. I don't think I copied this correct. Yep, my bad over here. /name. But if you guys copied it directly from the Trackit slides, like it should be working. Do you put a semicolon after your import statement? Yes, there is a semicolon at the end of this line. That's correct. npm run dev. Ta-da! We now say hello tmock. It should be working this way for all of you guys. Are there any questions about this? If all of this is good, if you were able to connect your code to the endpoint, yes, for everything, we're still in the functions folder. Everything in this entire workshop, you must be in the functions folder. That's correct. Yeah, you might get an error saying certain variables are not defined. Okay, what is the hello-tmock-utd? That's the endpoint we're querying. So let's look at this one over here. Here we said if someone does /hello, it should return hello world. Over here, we're saying if someone does /hello-tmock-utd, and then they do / followed by their name, then it should run that function. So that's kind of what you can see that we typed over here. Let me make this a bit larger too. So if we were to type in curl localhost, and you can see we typed in the exact same thing, hello tmock-utd, hello tmock-utd, and then this thing over here that says :name is how you create a variable. So the name of this variable, so the variable is called name, and the value it stores is called tmock. So that's kind of why when you run it, it says hello tmock, because if you remember back in our tmock file, we did hello and then $ the name over there. Any questions about this?
I'm getting a cannot get hello my name -utd -name. Do I need to change -name to my name?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think
Yes.
that'll fix my error.
Yeah, so in this file, you need to replace the function with your name. Over here, this import statement needs to be yours. Anywhere where I'm using the word tmock, you guys should be using your name, like your actual name in the code. And a good question, if everyone asks to index.ts, won't there be merge conflicts? There will not be merge conflicts because you guys are all adding new lines. You're not changing any of the existing lines. Like all of the existing code is staying the same. And by any chance, if some of y'all have really close names and we do get a merge conflict, like we can fix it on our end and we'll be able to make sure that both of those go through.
Yeah, I'm still getting that error, and my code looks the same as yours.
Where are you running curl localhost? I'm running curl localhost like just on another tab. So I have 2 terminal windows open. Can you post a screenshot of your error so that someone can take a look at it? Niranjan, can you post a, if it says cannot get, that essentially means you need to have typed in exactly what it said, what you have typed in over here. So that needs to be the exact same. Is that the exact same for y'all? And make sure that you guys remember to like build the code again, because once you make any changes, like anytime you make any changes, you need to build it again. If it says URL prefix not recognized, try prepending http/localhost.
How do you build it again?
If you go back to track it slide number 6, there's steps over here. So the last 2 steps, essentially, the second last step is to compile, the very last step is to run. So slide number 6 contains all of that. So npm run build will run it. Yeah.
Hey, can you how do I say this? Let me look at my code real quick. Can you go back to the imports? Because I think I messed up my import.
Yeah, this is what my imports look like. So I added this line, and then I added this line. These
okay.
other lines were already there, and they should already be there in your code as well. Questions about this? If you guys are getting errors, like on Zoom, you guys can upload like screenshots of like what your error looks like, and I'm sure Eric or myself will be able to take a look at it. After you read the curl statement, if it says hello undefined, that can be because you didn't put your name at the end. So for example, if I don't put a name, I think it'll say undefined. Never mind, it doesn't say undefined, it breaks. So put a slash at the end and put like hello there or something. That's how it reads it. And make sure in your tmock.ts file, you guys have this code added in. This is what reads the name from the URL. So without this code over here, like that endpoint doesn't know like what your name actually is, which is why it might say undefined. So if you follow through the steps on track it like perfectly, it will get you like to that exact spot. Let's take a look at how many people got this to work. If you guys got this to work so far, where it says hello and then your name, let's mark this as completed.
Harsha?
Yeah.
Just had a quick question. So when we're doing, because I'm on step 10 right now, where I have to do the add your endpoint in addition to the default one. So for app.get, do I have to do hello mock UTD and then my TS file?
For the import statement you're asking?
No, the final one right here. The right above. Yeah, right there.
Right. So yeah, you would do app.get / you can name this whatever you want. Honestly, the thing in between the first slash and the second slash, this is all you're saying is like, if someone goes to this endpoint, like what am I supposed to do? Make sure you do / name exactly as it is. Oh, that's one thing, guys, that I should mention. This last part over here where it says / name, you don't need to put your name over here. You actually need to type in exactly colon and your name. If any of y'all like typed in tmock over here, don't do that. This should be the same for everybody. Like this is the name of our variable here. It's called name. You'll notice that's why it's called name over here. And even in our tmock file, it's called name. So don't do like colon tmock. This will not get it to work. Do name. Same thing over here.
I have everything that you do. I'm still not getting it to work.
Oh, what's the error message?
It's the same error message as before, except I'm getting some errors when I'm doing the npm build.
Can you post a screenshot?
Yeah.
Is it npm?
Interesting. Abby, can you share a screenshot of what your can you make sure what Eric's said, like that is exactly what your code looks like? Right. Let's take a look at this one. Niranjan, I think you may need to like give me a larger screenshot. Like this is not the actual error message. It's probably above this.
I'm just going to throw in a quick interjection. I was getting all the errors that I see in the chat, and it took reviewing all of the code like 10 or 12 times to make sure, you know, everything was the exact same way it was written.
Yeah, that is one thing, guys. Like every single piece of code that we have is in Trackit. Like it's perfectly written down. So you guys should be able to like copy it over verbatim.
One thing to make sure is that you're recompiling and then rerunning as well.
Correct.
Before you try anything. Otherwise, it won't load in all of the new endpoints that you just added. So make sure to run npm run build and then npm run dev.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this you can fix. Niranjan, it just says you have something already running on port 8079. So Niranjan, what you can do is this very last line over here in the code that says app.listen 8079, just change that to a different number, like any number you like, whatever you want. Change it to 1234, and then you can do localhost : 1234. Yeah, if any of you had the same error that Niranjan posted where it said that the address was already in use or the port was already in use, like just change this number at the very end. Everybody's devices have hundreds, thousands of ports. So like you can put your favorite 4 numbers in here, whatever you like.
So I have a problem. When I run the curl, I get some weird message. Let me post a screenshot real quick.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's also true. It could mean that a previous instance is still running. Just you'll want to cancel that out.
So it compiled correctly and it ran. So I'm thinking I messed up my local host.
Yeah, so you want to end your command at your name without the stuff in the braces. Yeah, the stuff in the braces should be what you get back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the stuff in the brace is the response. If you look at what I entered, like this is all I'm entering /hello, and that's the end. And then that's my message back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead to the next part, which is really, really simple. It's possibly the simplest slide in our entire presentation, which is For our second endpoint, what we want to do is we want to get back the number of points you guys have in Hacktoberfest. It's really straightforward. We have already provided the code for you. Everything is there. The only thing you need to do is change this email address to be the email address you used for registering for Hacktoberfest. That's it. You need to change that and then change the name of the function. Only two things that you need to change, that's all. So that should be a fairly easy fix that I think you guys can do. So make sure your email address is here. Make sure it's the same thing you've been using for all the Zoom calls and your registration. Make sure it's the exact same thing. I'm going to replace this with tmock utd. Put your actual first name and last name over here. Make sure there's no spaces. Once you do that, slide number 12 actually is identical to slide number 10 in a way. So we need to link the endpoint as well. It's very similar to how we did it for the previous one. We just need to do it for the second function as well. So over here, we were importing one function. We just want to make sure to implement the other one as well. Tmock utd. And then we can copy in this line that says the name of the URL. So if someone queries /tmock utd, then run that function. And what this function essentially does, to give you all a very quick gist, is line number 30 basically says, give me the URL for the ACM API. So the ACM API is what can retrieve and fetch and save all of your information for Hacktoberfest. That's what line 30 does. Line 31, 32, 33 is just your email address. And then this line over here that says axios.default.post, that is how we're fetching your data. We're just making a request saying, hey, go to the ACM API, which is the URL, send it this data, which is your email address, and just like give me back like any information that you have about them. And then we send that data back to you guys. Cool. I hope that works. Once you do that, go ahead and mark this as completed as well. And then the last two steps over here is identical to everything you've seen from all the other workshops you have attended today. We're going to teach you how to make a pull request. So by the way, after this workshop ends, also, I'll be down in one of the Discord VCs if you guys have any questions or pull requests don't work. But let me give you all about 2 more minutes where I can answer questions right now, and then I'll walk through the process of opening a pull request here so that you guys can follow along with me.
So I did npm run dev again, but it's just saying the severity warnings. It's not letting me like type the next terminal command or anything.
Correct. It will say the severity warning, and that's why you have to open another tab. You have to open.
Oh, okay. I have to open a new terminal and then like.
Correct. So while this code is running, like you can't type anything in here.
Okay, let me try that.
Yeah. It's a good thing if you can't type anything. That just means your server is running.
I got rid of the braces and everything in it, and it's still giving me the same problem, except instead of saying the get /hello -tmock -utd my name, then the braces, it just says the same thing but without the braces. Let me take a screenshot of this.
Yes, please do send your screenshots. We can take a look at any error messages that you guys get. Let's see. I'm looking at this screenshot where it's like underlined in red. Is it possible that maybe there's a typo in the name of the function? Perhaps, like if you open up your farisha.ts file, just make sure that this name and the name inside that file are identical to each other. The idea with this first name and last name is very straightforward. All we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that everybody has a unique name, that's all. You could honestly name it anything you wanted, but the important thing is that there should be no spaces, and yeah. ed79, hello to Monkey
How do I open a new terminal inside VS Code?
Command Shift P and then type in terminal. So command, or if you already have one open down here, you can just click this plus button.
There's a plus button. Oh, there is.
Yeah. If you have VS Code open, guys, like there is a simple plus button here to open multiple terminal windows. And then you'll notice that there's a drop-down menu where you can switch between them. So I could open like 5 terminal, 7 terminal windows. They're all open over here. Okay.
Hello, Harsha.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you show me your tmock.ts file real quick?
Sure, yeah.
Just for a second.
Let's go. It works now. It says my name.
It's perfect.
Now I need to do what you did in what did you do in slide 11
Thanks.
again?
I just changed the email address to be mine. Yeah, follow through on track it. All it does is it changes the email address to be yours. It changes the name of the function to be yours, and then updates the index.
Which file is this in?
This isn't the duplicate file that you created. So every one of you should have made a copy of the template file and named it your own name, and then edited that.
Okay, I see. I'll just, yeah, I can do that. And then it's going to be the same command as the start of the workshop, except it'll be with my info and not yours.
Correct. Awesome. Once you guys have all of this done, let's go ahead and open a pull request. So I'm gonna go back over here. Let me make this a little bit more compact so we can see it. Let's go ahead and add our code. So we can do git add. All of these commands are on slide number 2 of Trackit, by the way. Once you do git add, you can type in git commit -m, type in a message, yay, I finished. All of these instructions are also over here as well, how to open a pull request. And then simply type in git push. And that should work. Once this does work and you are done with this, the next process is to open a pull request. So go to GitHub, right? So on GitHub, open the repository in your branch. So it should have your name in the top left, not ACM UTD, it should have your name. How do you query to get the points? You'll be able to do the query once you submit your pull request to us. So in order for you to do the query, we need to deploy your code. And we'll do that as soon as we get everyone's pull request. Before you add, commit, and push, should we build and run again? Yeah, you can run and build the code as many times as you would like locally to test it. The two things are completely unrelated to each other. Yeah. So what we're going to do is now we're going to click on this pull request button over here. The steps are very clearly outlined in Trackit. It's got like the buttons and all like super highlighted. So the pull request button's over there in the top right. Click on that. It'll show you a bunch of things. Just go ahead and click on create pull request. I'm just calling it finished tmock.ts. You guys can put it as your name. And then create pull request. And that's it. Once you do this, you guys are officially done. What we'll need to do from ACM development side is we'll be able to review all of your pull requests and we'll be able to deploy your code. Once it's deployed, I'll post a notification in Discord that says, hey, everyone, like you can type this in and it'll work now.
Harsha, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I changed my email. I changed the email. So in the index.ts, do I just need to have what it says? What is the tmock? So instead of tmock UTD would be my name UTD, right?
Correct. Yes. This would be your name, correct.
But what I'm getting I'm getting like a red underline in it. It's like it's declared, but its value is never. Oh, I didn't call it. Is that it? Hold on, let me see.
Yeah.
I
So
just need to
if you
add
guys
that
were
up.
able to complete like step number 8 and 9, I believe, or step 8, which was to do the first one, which says hello world, then, and if that worked locally, the second one will just work automatically. If you're getting an error that says cannot read property Firebase of undefined, that is good. That means it's working because you are running the code on your laptop, not on Firebase. So that's correct. That error message will happen if you try to run the code locally for the second function. But yeah, this pretty much wraps it up. At 6 p.m. there's a bunch of talks happening, which we have information for. So if I mark completed over here, can go to our very last slide.
Why does my name? Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's saying my module has no exported member.
Did you replace? Can you send a screenshot of your tmock.ts or your file, the new one that you made?
Yeah, send a screenshot of that. Okay.
Yeah, send a screenshot of that. Also, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop over to Discord because there's another thing happening on Zoom at 6 p.m. and we kind of need to let them have this room. So this whole workshop has been recorded, so I'll make sure you guys get hold of it at some point once we put it on YouTube, probably in a few days. But thank you everyone for attending. I hope you enjoyed this workshop.
Thank you. This was really one of the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys. I'll see you on Discord.